and the Constitution of the United States, a Marine Corps veteran, a Harvard-trained attorney, Bishop of the Called Churches, and founder and president of STAND. Staying true to America's national destiny, the voice of the awakening. Your host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
And I am he. Great to be with you again today. Hope you're having a wonderful day. This is the day the Lord has made. We will be glad and rejoice in it. You know, all of us from time to time get some bad news, and a lot of times we get bad news about our country, but that's kind of where we are right now. But you know, there's always good news. You know, the Word of God says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And don't mind telling you all that my son is doing better. I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate your prayers. It's been quite a little odyssey, him going through this COVID pneumonia. It's the pneumonia part that has really been tough, but he's doing much better. And I just heard from my producer, Randy, his son, that I asked you all to pray for. His son is doing better. And look, folks, I cannot tell you enough, without getting overly emotional, how much we appreciate you. Because you all are really part of our family. You're really part of our extended family in a sense. Your prayers, your support, your encouragement, it just means the world to us. And we are very, very, very grateful. So God bless each and every one of you. I want to remind you again, we have some complimentary tickets available for the Stand Awards dinner, courtesy of American Family Radio. Tim Wildman authorized this, and we want you to be able to come wherever you are. The tickets are $150, so they're of some value, but we would love to have you come at no charge. Amen. No charge. And 2 tickets per person. We are making an exception for young people, ages 12 to 20, because we want people in high school and young teens, and we want them to be able to experience this. And we know for the most part they don't have the money to do that, and their families may not be able to pay $150 a ticket for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids. So we make an exception for them. If you've got children, we want them to come. Now, aside from that, 2 tickets per person is what we're offering. 2 tickets per person. All you got to do is email us at awardsdinner@standamerica.us, awardsdinner@standamerica.us, and just claim your tickets, and of course you'll deal with someone who will tell you exactly what information we need in order to assure your place at the dinner. All right, well, that having been said, folks, I said there's good news. I just gave you some personal good news. I think there's some pretty good news on the horizon here in terms of the shift that's taking place. I've said that the crazier the left gets, the more they are feeding a tsunami that is going to sweep them out of power and out of influence and just out of the way. And I'm talking about a spiritual and cultural tsunami. I am never talking about violence. I'm never talking about that. I'm talking about a spiritual and cultural and political tsunami that's just going to sweep them aside. Because, folks, they're bat crazy. They're just bat crazy. I mean, you even got Democrats, I forget the number, but quite a few in the House and the Senate telling Joe Biden, you can't live Title 42. You can't do that. Our circumstance is already at crisis levels. We're talking about a 500,000 illegal immigrants crossing our borders. You cannot do that. I don't think he's listening, because I think, here again, I think Joe Biden is an empty suit who will simply blow with the wind and wherever the money is. Now, I don't know, where the money may be coming from in this sense. I don't know whether it's coming through George Soros or some of these other billionaires. We know that Mark Zuckerberg spent $500 million in the 2020 election buying up election boards and whatnot. But it was all open and above board. No, there was no cheating. Nothing unusual went on. We people who raised the question of the 2020 election, we're terrible. How could we think such a thing? Well, Mark Zuckerberg spent $500 million trying to control the outcome of the election, and I think he helped get it done. The mainstream media censored the Hunter Biden-Joe Biden corruption story, and it is the Hunter Biden-Joe Biden corruption story. You're hearing the reports now of the multiple visits to the White House when Joe Biden was president of Hunter Biden and his business partner to meet with Joe. Folks, here again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. They're crooks. They're crooks. They've been selling political influence. That's the only reason why you enter a contract to give Hunter Biden $10 million a year for over a 3-year period. That's the only reason why you allow a novice to enter into an investment deal worth $1.5 billion. Come on. I mean, I may have been born during the day, but I wasn't born yesterday. They're crooks. But all of that was suppressed. It's Russian disinformation. I mean, that was just a bold-faced lie. And all the polling data tells us that it helped swing votes, that if people had known the truth about what was going on, it would have made a difference. Now, I'm convinced of this, folks. Joe Biden should be impeached. I mean, he should be removed from office. I'm convinced of it. Of course, it has to be an investigation. But based on everything I now know, to me, it's quite clear. It's quite clear that the man has been engaged in selling influence and political payoffs for a long time. And, people are talking about he's going to run again. I think the real question is, can he survive a new Congress that actually looks into these matters? Because when they begin to look into these matters, I think he is in big, big trouble. Hunter Biden gets indicted, and they start investigating all of his financial shenanigans. I think they lead right back to Dad, the big guy, the chairman. They had various code names for him. They didn't use his name. I think the American people, again, not as quickly as you or I might like, but it's happening, folks. It's happening. Look, Twitter's being taken over by Elon Musk. And, of course, the lefts, their heads are just exploding, I mean, it's funny to watch. It really is. It's funny to watch because you can see the anxiety. In fact, look, there's one article in which a Twitter employee, this is the woman who is the top lawyer at Twitter, who she was explaining to employees in a virtual meeting what the purchase by Elon Musk might mean, and she broke down into tears. These people are totalitarianists. They really believe. Now let's just break this down here, because there are really two fundamental beliefs behind what they do and how they operate, and their willingness to suppress and to censor other people. I'll tell you what those are when we come back. The number is 888-589-8840. I'm going to try to get some of your calls in toward the end of the next segment, 888-589-8840. Stand by. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson.
A few weeks ago, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a warning about the mental health of adolescents. More than 4 in 10 teens reported they felt persistently sad or hopeless. A significant percentage of teenagers said they had contemplated suicide. The deputy director of the CDC explained that their survey was a cry for help. She says the COVID-19 pandemic has created traumatic stressors that have the potential to further erode students' mental well-being. I would add, however, that some of these problems of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and suicidal thoughts were probably growing even before the pandemic. The survey was a representative sample of 7,700 teens conducted in the first 6 months of 2021. They were questioned on a range of topics, including their mental health, alcohol, and drug use. While it is true that young people had fewer medical problems due to the virus compared to older people, it is nevertheless true that the isolation and economic turmoil of the pandemic and lockdowns affected them. In previous commentaries, I've talked about other warnings from healthcare officials. For example, last fall, the American Academy of Pediatrics declared a national emergency in child and adolescent mental health. A few months ago, the Surgeon General issued a similar warning. While I applaud all of these organizations for focusing on the problem, I also hope we can find solutions to what is a growing problem of mental health. I believe that churches can provide help and encouragement to teens and their families. Pastors and youth leaders should be alert to this problem of teen mental health and work to support these young people and their parents. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kirby's booklet, A Biblical View on Inflation, go to viewpoints.info/inflation. That's viewpoints.info/inflation.
I'm Peter Rosenberger, and this is your Caregiver Minute. Sometimes as caregivers, we look at the problems in our field of view and try to tackle all of them at once. The healthy approach is dealing with what is nearest to us. My martial arts instructor often tells me to fight what's closest. A distant opponent can wait until we deal with the obstacle directly in front of us. Difficult things may lurk on the horizon for caregivers, but fixating and fretting over them, that's just unhealthy. Planning is appropriate, but we better serve ourselves and others by focusing on what lies within our grasp rather than living in the wreckage of our future. Sometimes it's as easy as just doing the next right thing, which may be taking a nap, calling a friend, or even visiting your own doctor. Look, we both know that more challenges await us, but let's deal with today, what's closest, and do the next right thing.
This has been your Caregiver Minute with Peter Rosenberger, brought to you by Standing with Hope, a ministry for the wounded and those who care for them. There's more information at standingwithhope.com.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at AFR.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
Now, understand the mindset behind the censorship. This one breaks down in tears because Twitter might be taken over by Elon Musk, and he might allow people like E.W. Jackson to say things that we don't want it to be able to say. And they just loved it. They felt so inspired by our tears. These people are totalitarianists. And here's the number one thing that we all have to continue to remind ourselves of. They really believe that they are so superior to the rest of us that they know what we should not hear because we are not intelligent enough to assess it, analyze it, think about it, decide whether we believe it, whether we accept it or not, dismiss it. No. You don't have the intelligence to do that. They do. And therefore, they're going to do that for you. And they're going to tell you, no, you may not hear that. But maybe because it's hate speech, maybe because it's homophobic, maybe because you are denying science. You're a science denier. And the rest of us, you, me, who are clear in our convictions, we don't feel we have to censor people because they don't agree with us. I don't. I'm happy to have the debate. And if I think something is really crazy, I'm going to point out why I think it's really crazy. Go right ahead and say it, but let me point out why I think it's crazy. But they don't want you to be able to do that because you're not smart enough to know. They know better. Folks, that is a dangerous attitude. That is the attitude of the tyrant. That is the attitude of the totalitarianist. And here's the second thing. They really believe that what they have in mind for us, for the society, for the world, is so wonderful that doing evil to others is okay because of the end result. The end justifies the means by any means necessary. It's okay. And here again, that's the mindset of the tyrant. That's the mindset of the totalitarianist. That's the mindset of the communist, frankly. You know, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. Eggs meaning a few heads, take a few lives, or maybe hundreds of lives, or maybe thousands, or maybe millions of lives. It's okay. Because after all, what you're providing people is so wonderful that that's an almost insignificant price to pay. That's the way these people think. I mean, the arrogance of sitting on this platform and feeling that certain people should not have a say, like me. They kicked me off because I simply pointed out that it was Muslims who were killing Christians in Sri Lanka. I'm serious, folks. That's all I did. Somebody criticized the Christians and said, well, the Christians are not evangelizing honestly, and da-da-da. And I said, well, yeah, but they're not killing anybody. I said, it's the Muslims doing that. And boom, I was off. I violated Twitter policy. And yet, the Iranian mullahs are on. Putin is on. You just name the monster. Those are okay. Quite all right. But the former president of the United States, voted for by 80 million people. No, he should know. We know better. Those 80 million people are stupid, but we know better. He should not be hurt. He's dangerous. You know, thank God there's a movement happening. Elon Musk takes over Twitter. Disney stock is cratering because the average American father and mother are thinking, I don't take my children to Disney to have them pawed over and potentially molested by transgenders, homosexuals, pedophiles. And by the way, Disney has hired pedophiles, and they've also hired people who have been engaged in human trafficking. That is a fact, folks. I'm not making it up. I'll dig out the articles. And I think most families are hearing that and saying, you know what, that's it. I'll find someplace else to go. And I am so elated. I don't know where Elon Musk is spiritually, but I want to see Christians rise up and start our own parks, start our own entertainment venues. Just turn our backs on these abominable institutions that are attacking the very fabric of our society and undermining our Christian values and just trying to destroy families and destroy anybody who won't go along. Just turn our backs on them. And love you, but bye. Netflix subscriptions are cratering. Biden's ratings are really, they're bad. I won't use the analogy I'm thinking of, but they're bad. Okay. Folks, 221,000 illegal immigrants entered our country in March. You know, I was just in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I was told by a Jonesboro resident that Arkansas has 80,000 residents. That means in the month of March, we allowed 3 times the size of Jonesboro, Arkansas into our country in 1 month. In 1 month. You know, you don't have to be a political analyst to realize this is crazy. We can't sustain that kind of influx. Those people end up somewhere. They end up needing public schools support. They end up needing health care. They end up needing food. They end up needing clothing. They end up, and they're coming here as illegal immigrants. What are they going to do? We just found out many of them, they're coming here to deal drugs and coming here to engage in human trafficking, coming here to kill Americans. Not all, not all. I'm not even saying most. But how many does it take to begin to upend our lives? So I am very, very encouraged. In spite of all these bad things happening, I see these numbers and I realize, you know what, all over this country, Americans are saying, hey, wait a minute, enough. I've had it. I've had it. And so, folks, we just need to keep praying and say, pray, give, activate, stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up, because we're going to win. We're going to win. Lies simply cannot win. The number is 888-589-8840. Give me a minute here, and I'll come to your calls. Give me a couple minutes. I'm wrapping up another book by Thomas Sowell. I guess Thomas Sowell's really becoming kind of my favorite read these days. You know, he said something in this book. This is called Dismantling America. He said something that gave me a brand new insight that I'd never considered. I probably told you all this story, but when I was running for office, when I was running for lieutenant governor, and I told my story, I grew up in foster care. When I got there as a young child, I don't remember, but as I grew up, I realized we didn't have an indoor bathroom. We had what was called a shed kitchen, and the shed kitchen had a galvanized tub in it, and they would heat water on the stove and pour water into the galvanized tub for your Saturday night bath. And that's how I grew up in foster care, taking a Saturday night bath in a galvanized tub. Now, I was the youngest, and often other children were coming through the foster home, and my foster parents had to use that water, and it was only put in there one time. And I can remember looking at the scum on that water and thinking, I am not getting into that. And I would splash water like I was taking a bath and wouldn't get in. Terrible hygiene. But the Washington Post sent people down to Chester, Pennsylvania, to try to find evidence that I'd lied about that was not true. Now, folks, you don't forget this kind of stuff, right? And by the way, I remember taking the slop pot out every morning. Here again, you know, when you've lived this stuff, you know it. Well, the Washington Post sent people down there to try to prove that none of that had ever happened, that quote unquote, I had a middle class background. And Thomas Sowell made me realize something in reading his book that I'd never thought about before. It was important that they prove that I was not a black person who started out in poverty and ended up successful. It was important that they prove that I had a privileged background, because in America, people, particularly black people, but people don't start with nothing. They don't start living in a house with 2 bedrooms, a shed kitchen, and no indoor bathroom, and taking baths in a galvanized tub. They don't start out that way and end up achieving anything. They were trying to prove that my background was privileged. Oh, he had a middle-class background. He had a wonderful home. He had the foster parents. My foster parents were completely illiterate. My foster father, Willie, could not read or write at all. He signed his name with an X. And my foster mother could read a little bit and could sign her name. But she was not what I would call functionally literate. She could read a little bit. You don't have to make this stuff up. But this is a country where people start there all the time, regardless of the color of their skin, and go on to do wonderful things in life, because this country offers that opportunity to anybody who will work, to anybody who wants to do something with their lives. But it's very, very important that they convince us all that that's not true, that America is essentially unfair, systemically racist, white supremacist, that anybody who gets ahead is because of white privilege, and if you get ahead on any other basis, it's somehow an anomaly, it's luck, it's whatever. Folks, the American people are starting to say, you know what? Enough of the anti-American propaganda. Enough, I'm going to take your call as soon as I come back, but enough of the anti-American propaganda, enough of the anti-Christian hatred and bigotry, enough of the racial division and demagoguery, and we're taking our country back based upon the values that made us the greatest nation on earth and the values that are going to secure our future. Back in a moment.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Some time ago, a company advertised in New York newspapers to fill a vacancy on its sales force. It seems as though the company was in need of a furniture salesman. Several people answered the ad, more than 1,500 in all. But one of the applicants turned in what was probably the most unusual resume in history. This particular applicant sent back the following reply. I am presently selling furniture at the address below. You may judge my ability as a salesman if you'll stop in to see me at any time, pretending that you're interested in buying furniture. When you come in, you may identify me by my red hair. I will have no way of identifying you. Such salesmanship as I exhibit during your visit will be no more than my usual workaday approach. I'll make no special effort to impress a prospective employer. Well, I think most of us will agree that that was indeed an unusual reply to an ad. Most of us would have written back, telling up our good points and explaining to the company why they should hire us. Or if the prospective employer was going to visit us on the job, we would at least like to know which one he was so we could be on the ball and do an outstanding job. After all, most of us do want to impress the boss. But here was a man who was willing to be himself. Here was a man who wanted his employer to know exactly the type of salesman he was hiring before he hired him. Here was a man who was confident of his ability. He wasn't showy or pretentious or superficial. He may not be the world's greatest salesman, but he did the best he could at all times, and he was not ashamed of his best. He could greet and treat all people with equal respect regardless of their rank or position. You know, there's a lesson in this story, a true one incidentally, for modern man. When you give your job and anything else your best, you don't have to apologize because you don't have the talent or gifts or money or position of someone else. When you can take any and every person and treat them as though they are your future employer, you have reached a place in life where life can be enjoyed. The one thing that caused so much friction between the carpenter and that group known as the Pharisees was the fact that they tried to put up a front, to be something they were not, to look down on others. And the one thing that caused his heart to go out to the woman who washed and wiped his feet when others wanted to get rid of her was the fact that she was willing to admit what she was. Usually, life's best results come from accepting yourself for what you are and then beginning from that point. It did for the furniture salesman. We said more than 1,500 people applied for that job. They did. They sure did. But do you know who got it? You're right. He sure did.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
The number is 888-589-8840. I want to get to your calls and see if we can get some more in today. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Mike in West Virginia. Mike, welcome. Mike, you're on. Oops. Okay, hold on. That's me. That's my little problem there. Let me correct that. And Mike, just stand by. There you go. Mike, are you on now?
I think so.
There you go. I can hear you just fine. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for taking my call. You mentioned totalitarian leftists in government. And I am wondering, could there be a lot of totalitarian leftists who have become congressional staffers and are trying to control their congressman by controlling what their congressman hears?
Yeah, well, we can only speculate, but I would say, Mike, that the likely answer is yes. Yes. I believe that. I believe that there are people who have that mindset who go into Congress and other bureaucracies with the intention of trying to control the people who are charged by the electorate with actually doing that. And I think that's what's happened to the president. I think that's what happened to President Trump. I think the bureaucracy, that is already insinuated itself into every aspect of government, have a totalitarian mindset. They don't care who the American people elect. They only care what they want, and they're willing to undermine a president. See, to me, that's the real coup, not January 6th. The real coup is all these deep state people who think they know better than the American people, and no matter who they elect, they're going to do what they want to do. I mean, 51 intelligent agents, intelligent may be a misnomer, but intelligence agents said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. So, yeah, I don't have any doubt about it, Mike, and I hope that all of these good congressional representatives will be very, very cautious about who they allow into their inner circle. Thank you so much for the call, my friend. Let's go to Madison in Illinois. Madison, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful. Hey, I don't want to waste anybody's time, but I just want to ask you to consider something for the behalf of all your listeners. Would you prayerfully consider running for president?
Well, Madison, I am honored and humbled that you would suggest such a thing, and I want to take you seriously since I know you're not joking when you say that. And I'll tell you what I'll do. Yes, I will pray about that. I will not prejudge it, but I will pray about that. But thank you so much, Madison, for the call, I think. Oh, boy, I hope my wife is not listening, but thanks, Madison, for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Teresa in Louisiana. Teresa, welcome.
Hello. Yes. Good afternoon, Bishop. I want to talk to you about Vice President Biden, of course, when he was Vice President, how he committed his quid pro quo, and the fact that he must have known about his son's business dealings at all times because he wanted the prosecutor to stop investigating his son's dealings in the Ukraine. And, of course, Obama was in it because of the fact that he told the president of the Ukraine that if he wasn't sure that Biden was, okay to take away this money, that he could certainly talk to his partner, President Obama. So, of course, I mean, it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right there in front of the whole world.
Mm-hmm. Teresa, I couldn't agree with you more. This is, and thank you for the call, Teresa, but this is my view on Barack Obama and his shenanigans. I think Barack Obama, and people used to say, Barack Obama could try to take over the country and Barack Obama could try to become a dictator. Yeah, I never thought that. And you know why? Not because I think he respects our constitutional republic, because I don't think he does. I think because Barack Obama's concern is one thing, Barack Obama. And I think he knew that he would be putting himself at risk to pull something like that. And he's one of these people who I think knows how to step right to the line without ever crossing it. Because he's so self-absorbed and self-inoculated from the potential of doing anything to interfere with his creature comforts and his life, that he would always keep 6 degrees of separation between himself and actual corruption while winking and nodding at it. And I think that's exactly what he did in this case. So, Teresa, thank you so much for the call. Let's go to Donna in Texas. Donna, welcome.
Yes, hello. Good morning or good afternoon. Hello and blessings to you, Bishop Jackson.
Thank you, Donna.
I want to make 3 points. 3 points.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, we do have a park. It's called the Ark and the Bible Encounter, located in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have the Bible Museum in the capital of the U.S. But big point that I'd like to make is I don't believe we have the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the corruption, the deals that have been made at the expense of our national security. And going back especially to the Clinton administration,
mm-hmm.
I remember Sandy Rios interviewing a man who was part of the Senate for the country of Haiti. And he expressed very eloquently all the deals that Clintons had made in Haiti after one of the bad, I can't remember which earthquake, but the fact that Hillary Clinton had sold a silver mine to her brother. And I think that Afghanistan, the hasty exit from Afghanistan, represents the same type of greed and corruption. I'm sure because China has moved in to take advantage of our infrastructure that we spent billions of dollars putting together for them. And now they get the rights to mine all of the battery.
The lithium, the cobalt.
Lithium, And I'll bet the Biden family will be rich for years based on a percentage of that particular situation.
Donna, thank you so much for the call. I think they will be rich for life unless they get locked up. And even then, their wealth may overcome that. In other words, it may last beyond that. But I don't think there's any question about it. They are set for life, and I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that some deals have been made. Here again, wink, nod, what have you, and all that cobalt and lithium necessary for the batteries that they want to build these electric cars with are now going to be, all of that is now going to be controlled by China. And you can't tell me that Joe Biden didn't know that. So thank you for the call, Donna. I think it's a great point. Let's go to Linda, also in Texas. Linda, welcome.
Yes, sir, Bishop E.W. Jackson. I remember a time when you commented on Rush Limbaugh and how you listened to him and how you felt like you lost a good friend. And I've been waiting for the moment to call you and tell you. When I heard you say that, I knew in my heart that I needed to call and tell you that all of us feel the same about you, that you are such a good friend to us. And I just want to tell you thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Wow, thank you so much. That really does warm my heart. I really appreciate that. Yeah, folks, there's no question. You know, I'd never met Rush. I met Bo Snerdley, and because he came to Virginia for me when I was running for office, and he and I got to meet and talk, but I never met Rush. But my wife and I just loved Rush. We just thought he was so funny. And you know, the interesting thing, folks, is, and I'll come back to your calls when we come back from this break, but the interesting thing is, I started listening to Rush because I kept hearing, Rush is a racist, Rush Limbaugh's a racist, Rush Limbaugh's a racist. And of course, me, being intellectually curious, I thought, let me listen and see what I hear. And I started listening to Rush, and I listened to one day, and then 2 days, and then 3 days, and I kept thinking, well, where's the racism? You know, where this guy's not a racist. He's somebody who loves America, cares about our people, cares about our future. And I just love when he would make fun of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. I thought it was great because they are buffoons. I mean, they really are, you know. So I thought it was wonderful. And yes, I do miss him as a friend. I wish I'd had a chance to get to know Rush personally. Stand by, folks. We'll be back in a moment.
What does the American Family Association stand for?
AFA upholds the truth that all human beings, including the unborn, are created in the image of God and are worthy of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
These values and more are part of our mission to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. We want to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. Thank you for standing with us.
When you hear this is American Family News.
You know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net. And sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net.
In His image, delighting in God's plan for gender and sexuality is changing hearts and lives.
It speaks directly to the power and the grace of God.
Gives me hope for people that I know that are struggling.
The whole idea of In His image has moved me.
We actually had one gentleman contact us, and he said that this film changed his mind about this issue. We had a pastor reach out to us, and he said that he'd been struggling with hatred in his heart towards people in the LGBTQ community, and this film helped him to realize he needed to have compassion and show people the love of Christ. We also had this same-sex attracted couple contact us, and they said after seeing the film, they wanted to live obedient lives for Christ no matter what. And they said, please pray for us. We know this is going to be hard. We've even had people come to faith in Jesus through In His Image.
To find out more, visit inhisimage.movie.
The foundation of a great marriage, really of a great relationship, is that you have two open hearts.
Dr. Greg Smalley sharing an important key to having a successful marriage on Focus on the Family Minute.
I tell you what, it is so important. King Solomon, wisest man that ever lived, said above all else, so above everything else, the only time he ever used that phrase, what did he say? Above all else, guard your heart. Why are we guarding our heart? What are we guarding it against from doing? And I'm telling you, what we're guarding it against doing is closing down. Because it goes on to say, because our heart's the wellspring. God's love is intended to flow out of our hearts. And if our hearts close down, that wellspring isn't able to flow out.
More ways to protect your marriage at FamilyMinute.org.
Back to the Awakening with Bishop E.W. Jackson on American Family Radio.
By the way, folks, you know, I always laughed about this whole issue of Russians are racist, and I guess they would be talking about when he would make fun of people like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. Well, let me just tell you, I think it's great to be able to make fun of yourself and great to be able to not take yourself so seriously. But I'll tell you what, I met Jesse Jackson on several occasions, and believe me, he had no sense of humor at all. In fact, I joked with him one time because I'd been on his show. I did his show. Remember, he had a show, what was it, on CNN, I think? I think it was CNN. But I did his show one time. And after I'd gotten to know him, so I knew he recognized me, I would see him and say, hey, Jesse, the real Reverend Jackson. You know, because it was, to me, it was just being funny. He never cracked a smile. You would have thought he would have just laughed and said, yeah, right, the real Reverend Jackson. But oh no, he looked at me like I had two heads. He didn't like it, not one bit. I could tell you some stories about my interactions with him, and I tell you this. I had some police officers tell me one time that when they had Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, not Al Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan come into town for big events, and they were charged, of course, with trying to make sure the situation was secure. And I had police officers tell me they preferred Louis Farrakhan because he was courteous, he was mannerly, he was nice to them. And Jesse Jackson came in and acted like they were his servants. Now, that's what some cops told me about the difference. They said, we'd rather, I don't agree with Louis Farrakhan, but we'd rather deal with Louis Farrakhan because at least he was gentlemanly, and Jesse Jackson acted like the whole world owed him something. Just a little report there. So I enjoyed it when Rush made fun of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. I would howl. 888-589-8840 is the number. Let's go back to your calls. Let's go to Dave in Kansas. Dave, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, good morning, Bishop Hamilton. How are you today, sir?
I am blessed, my friend. How are you, and what's on your mind today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, may Yahweh continue to bless you and your family and your ministry.
Thank you,
sir. What you're doing
sir.
here is amazing, and it's exposing the lies and deceit of the globalist corporations and all of the people that are trying to destroy our beautiful country.
Amen.
I wanted to share with your listeners a conversation that I had with my father many, many years ago growing up. I'm the proud father right now of a 14-year-old boy, and he is very much awake to what is going on in the school system and his Boy Scout program, what's left of it, and all the things going on around him in the world. He's fearful, but I tell him to put his faith in Yahshua and Yahweh, and he will be delivered. But
Amen.
When I was growing up, my father used to sit we used to sit nightly in his study and have man-to-man talks. And one of the things he told me, he says, son, when you see perversion and you see distortion and you see division line up together, imminent destruction is at hand. And I'll never forget the words that he spoke to me. And then today, all the things we're seeing in every scenario, in every situation that our country is experiencing, whether it be the school system, whether it be our government, whether it be our foreign affairs, you name it, it can be judged in that formula. When you see those three things line up, imminent destruction's at hand. And I'll tell you, biblically, we are Babylon. There's no doubt about it. Our country is going to be Babylon, and it's going to fall. The Lord said we're not going to.
All right, Dave. Dave, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let me get some others in. I don't agree with the America's going to fall part, but I certainly do agree that unless there's an antidote to those things, it can't lead to anywhere but destruction. But I'm believing God that because of you and me and others in this country being the salt and light that God needs here, if he was willing to spare Sodom and Gomorrah for only 10 righteous people, I believe that God is willing to withhold the hand of judgment for the millions across this country who are crying out to him in behalf of our beloved nation. So, but thank you for the call, Dave. Let's go to Mike in Texas. Mike, welcome.
Yes, sir. I am he is I. Yes, sir. Listen, two things real quick. Number one, Elon Musk's religious affiliation, he's atheist.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I read that. And number two is, I don't know if you remember this, about 3 or 4 years ago, Disney laid off like 2,000-3,000 people. And what they did was they hired people from overseas to come over and take their jobs. And the thing is, the people that were losing their job were forced to train these new people, because they could pay them a lot less, train these new people to take over their jobs. So imagine insult to injury with that.
Well, look, I don't know that I'm not familiar with, and I don't know what led to Disney being the way it is, but I know one thing: they're certainly far from the original mission of being a family-friendly source of entertainment. But Mike, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it. Let's go to Jean in North Carolina. Jean, welcome.
Oh, hey. I'd like to know, excuse me, I really don't like it, the way that the illegal folks are coming into our country the wrong way. They're disrespecting our country and our laws, rules, and regulations, everything else. You know, I want to know if the next president that gets in office, will he send them back home? And this question is always in my mind. Don't they have a president, just like all those thousands of people are coming over here? Why can't all those thousands of people get together in their own country and fight for their own country?
Jean, two excellent questions, and thank you so much for the call, Jean. Number one, the next president certainly could begin to send illegal immigrants home. Now, let's be clear about something. He's going to get a fight. They're going to sue him. They're going to do everything. He's going to get some opposition from within his own administration. There are people working in the Department of State, people working in the CIA, and probably the FBI who are going to fight him. We're going to try to figure out ways to obstruct what he's doing. But I've said, Gene, that the next president of the United States is going to have to tell the country we will have to have a period of mass deportation. There's just no way around it. We have allowed the floodgates to open, and we've got to send a clear message. It's not going to be allowed to continue. And the way we're going to send that message is we're going to round people up and send them out of here. And then let people know you can come and you can get in illegally. We probably can't stop you all, but we're going to hunt you down and we're going to kick you out. And see, the moment that message goes around the world, it'll stop all this. Because they'll say, man, there's no need in getting you. If you get in, they won't let you stay. You're going to be forced underground and forced to hide because they're going to be trying to find you no matter where you are. And you get the whole American people cooperating with you. And I know, yeah, but that's racist, and you're talking about profiling. Look, we've got people from 150 countries coming across into our country illegally. 150 countries. That means there are people from all kinds of backgrounds. Now, most of them are probably from Central and South America, but we got people from Eastern Europe. We got people from the Middle East. We've got people from all over the world. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with honoring the sovereignty of our nation and securing our lawful boundaries, period. And if they don't like that, too bad. But that's just the way it is. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with antipathy against people based on the color of their skin. It has to do with a love and a commitment to our own rule of law. And I've made this point before, folks. How can you tell a criminal on the streets, you need to obey the law, and then tell illegal immigrants, but you don't need to, just come on in? I mean, that doesn't wash. Now, the rule of law is for everyone, and it's certainly for people who are foreigners who have no right to come into this country except by the lawful means that we provide. And if you don't come that way, you're going to have to go. I won't go any further into that. But thank you for the call, Gene. Folks, we're running short of time. So let me get to Julio, who has been waiting patiently. Julio in Texas. Julio, welcome back.
What's up, Bishop? Good to talk to you, brother. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, and everybody who's in Texas and maybe Shreveport, Louisiana, we do have alternative things. You ain't got to go to Disney World. Come on out to Splash Kingdom Water Park, Christian-based organization. Y'all come have a good time. Hey, Bishop, and whenever you're ready to come down, let's get that great maybe a free pass, man.
Now, wait, what's the name of the park again, Julio?
Yes, sir. Splash Kingdom Water Park.
Splash Kingdom Water Park. All right, Julio, thank you.
Seek the Kingdom, Matthew 6:33, I think.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you. Thank you, Julio. There you go. All right. See, that's what I mean, folks. There's a mass exodus from the la-la land of perversion and craziness, and we're moving into places like the Splash Kingdom. So God bless you, Julio. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Scott in Louisiana. Scott, welcome. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you go. Oops.
Three quick things. You kind of redirected me when you brought in Louis Farrakhan, but I didn't know you was going to mention him. So, one, the first thing I want to say, Rush was absolutely not a racist. If you put that guy in anybody else's skin tone and any other ethnicity, and he was speaking about white people, it would be funny in today's culture. You know, it would not only be accepted, and it's almost anticipated or expected. Two, in my humble heart, I just think there's a big difference between Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. I think that Jesse was one of those guys that had the courage to speak out when the riot came and the looting came and all that robbing. He said it was beneath him, it was degrading and humiliating. And in my mind, regardless of his shortcomings, I thought it took a lot of courage to speak out because he's spot on about that. And I think when people do wrong, you call them out for it. I think when they're doing right, thinking right, living right, saying the right things, trying to, do the right thing.
I got you.
Shed line on that too, and I thought that was a positive moment. Now, Louis Farrakhan, if you take I've listened to him a lot. Most white people don't, but if you take the kill whitey out of it, the Jews are the devil, and the mothership is coming back. I agree with about 90% of what that man says. Incredibly intelligent man. Highly independent.
Well, Scott, thank you for the call. You can hear the music. I beg to differ with you, Scott. I believe the Bible says a little leaven leavens the whole loaf. And if you are a false prophet, the fact that you may say some things that are true and accurate doesn't change the fact that it's poison in the pill. And that's why I have nothing whatsoever to do with him. And by the way, Jesse used to be pro-life too. But see, he sold his soul. And I think this is the bottom line, folks. Just my opinion. The Lord knows those that are his. I think the real problem with Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and obviously with Louis Farrakhan is they don't know Jesus Christ. They need to be saved. They need to be set free from sin and the degradation that they've embraced. That's going to do it for today, folks. I love you. God bless you. Remember, we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.
Thank you, my friend. Hope you have a great day.
All right. You too, Randy. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast.
Folks, this stuff about Louis Farrakhan, I've been hearing that mess for years. And I don't know whether the guy who just called was a Christian or not, but we just got to stop compromising with this mess. I mean, that to me is like saying, well, the devil has a point. Because that's exactly what it is. I mean, the devil quoted the scripture to Jesus. Now, Jesus could have said, now, I don't always agree with the devil, but, sometimes he's right, and, you ought to listen to him. No, I don't listen to them. I don't compromise with them. I don't play those games. You're wrong, wrong, wrong. That's it. I want nothing whatsoever to do with you. Period. And see, that's why these people get traction. Because everybody wants to dance and weave and, but I've heard black Christians say that, Farrakhan tells a lot of truth. Well, look, I said the devil will do that. He quoted the scripture to Jesus accurately for the most part. But Jesus made clear, but he wasn't quoting it because he wanted obedience to it. He was quoting it to try to trick Jesus into committing sin. So, at any rate, but God bless him. I understand. I've met a lot of people who think that way. But as Christians, a little leaven leavens the whole loaf. And if the root is poison, then the fruit is poison. And you can play around on a tree with a tree that's got a poison root and say, well, you know what, I might pick some good fruit from it from time to time. But you know what? Sooner or later, you're going to end up eating poison, and poison will kill you. So that's why I don't, same thing with Black Lives Matter. It's demonic. That whole thing is demonic. And Christians better get a revelation about this stuff and stop playing around with it and in effect, giving it wiggle room. Well, but some of it is, and then weak-minded people say, well, yeah, even that Christian brother, even Bishop Jackson said that Black Lives Matter and Louis Farrakhan, and then before you know it, they're following these people. No, period. I'm done. That's it. I don't have nothing to do with them. I'm completely and totally divorced from everything they represent, everything they stand for. And if they happen to say anything that's true, a broken clock will tell mechanical one, will tell the right time twice a day. That doesn't mean you use the thing for time. A digital clock only once a day if it's got AM and FM marked. But still, the thing is broken. The fact that it will tell time once or twice a day, depending on which kind of clock it is, doesn't mean, there's a lot of truth in that clock. At any rate, folks, listen, I want you to come to our Stand Awards dinner. We've got seats available for you. Go to, email us to claim 2 tickets per person at awardsdinner@standamerica.us, awardsdinner@standamerica.us. It's going to be a wonderful program. I got Bob McEwen, who is going to be speaking. We're going to have congressmen there, but most importantly, we're honoring 5 patriots for their contribution to our country because they took a stand, and we're giving them the George Washington Award for taking a stand. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great event. You want to be there. You don't want to miss this. I'll be at the Tyson's Corner Marriott on Tuesday, May the 17th at 7 p.m. So just email us, awardsdinner@standamerica.us, and you can get your tickets there. If Internet's an issue for you, you can call us, okay? Go to the website. The telephone number is there to call. And I don't like to give it out on the air because I don't want us inundated with phone calls with everybody asking questions. But if you really need to use the telephone, well, I'm telling you, maybe you don't use the Internet, email us first, okay? Or have somebody do that for us. And then if you need to talk to somebody, we'll make arrangements to do that, okay? All right, well, that's going to do it for today. God bless each and every one of you. I will be back. Oh, did you hear this guy asking me to really pray and take seriously the possibility of running for president of the United States? I got to go back and find out who that was. Who was that trying to start trouble? Oh, man. Oh, boy. But, he was so sincere, and he was so serious. I couldn't just dismiss him. So I told him I will think and pray about it, and I will. I mean, the pragmatics of it say, are you nuts? To me, not to him, but to, because he's looking at me thinking, well, it'd be wonderful if someone who thinks the way I think could become president of the United States. And I think that would be wonderful as well. Doesn't have to be me, but it'd be wonderful if somebody who shares our vision for life and our understanding of life based on a biblical worldview would become president of the United States. But the economics, and that's a big part of it, because you're going to run for president, you got to run 2 years. You got to run 2 years. That means you're not going to be doing much else but running for president, which means that you got to be able to take care of yourself, take care of your family. I've got to run stand. My church has to function. There's a lot of moving parts to doing something like that. But because I was asked seriously, and I don't lie, and I said, yes, I would take that seriously and pray about it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. So if I, at some point, come to a clear decision about that, I will let you know. But I'm doing that as a courtesy to a listener, okay? So everybody understands, to keep my word to a listener, I'm going to do that. Believe me, I got a lot of other stuff on my agenda. That was just an interesting call. I'll leave it at that. God bless you. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. for Wisdom Awakening. And God bless each and every one of you. I love you. Pray for me, okay? Somebody's asking me to pray about running for president. You pray for me that the Lord will give me wisdom to do what He wants me to do, because that's what my life is dedicated to, doing whatever God wants me to do. And you know, that's what it's going to be. As I understand what the Lord has for me, that's what I'm going for. So